Managing Director of Solarglide, and
I'm Andrew Payne, Projects Manager at Solarglide as well.
Hi everyone, welcome to our third podcast. Really excited to be here today. I'm Paul Pringle, the Managing Director of Solarglide, and
I'm Andrew Payne, Projects Manager at Solarglide as well.
so can't believe we're on our podcast number 3 already. Previously we've given intro to the company, and the last one that we did last month was about the service side and the installation of our products. So we're going to change it up a little bit this time. We're going to talk about probably our most famous product, our core product within the business, solar screens.
Mm-hmm.
So really exciting. As you can see, I've made a bit of a change up this time because I felt like on the last podcast I'd looked like I'd been dragged through a hedge.
I mean,
so
you
I think I've
you really didn't. I mean, also like from my perspective, you were interviewing Sean Dyche with me over here with the shaved head and stuff. So
I did have bed hair,
worry about it.
and I've decided to change it up. So I've made a little bit more of an effort. I just wanted to quickly say that there's been quite a lot happening in the business, but one of the sort of key things that happened is I went to the Northeast Expo, which is run by the Northeast Chamber of Commerce. It's a great event that takes place quite regular every sort of 4 to 5 months, and it showcases lots of companies in the region. And we went along and we saw lots of exciting opportunities and ideas that we could bring into the business. And we saw a voice coach, which Nick Redman, which was really good fun, and she sort of shows you how to warm up before a podcast, and I've got ideas of how to do that before so that our voices are the best they can be.
Would you care to give a demonstration?
She got us all stood up doing crazy stuff, sort of like this sort of thing, but I won't go too much into it because it was funny and it was great to do it, especially as an icebreaker to kind of get everybody talking to each other on the day. And I just thought it was a brilliant idea. So sometimes when you do a podcast, we're doing it now very early in the morning, your voice can be gravelly, your voice can be a little bit off key, and doing these kind of exercises beforehand can kind of make your voice sound better. But yeah, just want to recommend that to anybody in the Northeast, and I think they do it in other regions of the country as well. If you've got these expos that are put on by the Northeast Chamber of Commerce, I recommend going along because you get lots of really good ideas from it. So I just wanted to point that out before we kick things off. So this podcast is going to be about anti-glare solar screens.
Yep.
That is our core product within the business, and they are a blind that is used on ships to combat glare and heat. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about it?
I think the best place to start is why are solar screens needed on vessels? So vessels, as I've spoke many a time on the podcast, huge glass area, operate in basically hot conditions, creates basically like a greenhouse effect on the bridge of a ship. So the battle is to kind of make that area as comfortable as possible for the crew on board. What the issue is under the SOLAS regulations, and it's Chapter 5, Regulation 22.
What's a SOLAS regulation?
So the SOLAS regulations, are safety of life at sea. These are regulations that came into pass after the Titanic disaster in 1912 or something, and every decade or so they get updated and checked, and basically they just ensure that a standard is set for safety on board ships over, it is 100 gross tons off the top of my head, but for argument's sake, it's all ships. And what the regulations say, so this is Chapter 5, Regulation 22, is that navigable windows, so bridge windows, have to basically be unobstructed. They can't have anything on. They have to be able to be seen through at all points. So you can't have a permanent fixed film onto them. You have to have some method of the screens being retractable.
Is this legislation compulsory on all ships?
No. So for smaller vessels, like a yacht or something like that, it wouldn't be applicable. For a big vessel over 100 gross tons, it does kick in, and it's an absolute non-negotiable. So anything like a cruise ship, commercial ship, is absolutely in place for. Defence vessels are a bit different because they kind of operate under a law unto themselves, but at the same time, ultimately a defence vessel is owned by the taxpayer, so it wants to be compliant with to ensure the best lifespan of it. So for argument's sake, yes. And the regulation basically says any sort of product designed to reduce glare or UV, which effectively will not hinder the clearness of the windows, but it does offer some restriction to it, 'cause that's how the product works, has to be retractable, and this is where the solar screen comes in.
Well, I've recently been on 2 vessels doing some surveys in Barcelona recently, and on them, when I went on board, they were to kind of replace all the blinds that were on there that had been on there for a long time, and there was quite a few of them on both vessels where the blind was broken on the window, so you'd have all the blinds down in their position, apart from 1 or 2 of them where the glass was exposed, and the level of heat and glare coming through that space.
Well, this is exactly it.
Absolutely phenomenal. And you can imagine if I don't understand ships that don't have these on board, because how can you operate even in colder climates? You've got the winter sun coming through. Which
everything's against you because the sea has a reflective property. The glass is inches thick on vessels because it needs to be. And you've got the heat metal structure.
You've got the heat coming off.
It's a very heat
all the
absorbent
machines
structure.
and the radar systems and everything as well.
Exactly, and then that's before we even got onto, like you say, the onboard equipment producing various amounts of heat. So what a solar screen is effectively it's a plastic window film based into a roller blind like design. Is polyethylene is the plastic that's used for it, and what that does is it offers UV rejection and heat glare rejection property to sunlight coming through.
But it's got lots of benefits, hasn't it? So it's not just reduction in glare, reduction in heat. It's got a lot of human protective qualities.
Well, exactly. I mean, yeah.
So it can help with long-term eye damage in the sense of staring towards the sun when you're navigating at sea. It can keep the expensive systems on board cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Less maintenance.
Yeah, less costs are out there for computer systems like the system or
overheating
whatever.
And stuff like that.
Exactly, yeah.
It can allow you to see the computer systems better. And it can also stop things like dehydration on board for crew members as well, yeah. So if you're working on a bridge, and I know myself when I've been installing the blinds, that if you're not drinking a lot of water, you can get dehydrated very quickly. And we can go on to a story of that, but one of the guys that I was with was severely dehydrated because he wasn't drinking enough, and that was just being on the bridge of a ship where the aircon was running as well. So it's amazing how valuable this product is when it's
exactly,
installed.
and there's another key component. Aircon is a huge outlay for a vessel's fuel because obviously that's what effectively drives it. So having something that can slightly reduce that input is a massive effectiveness to a vessel and a ship owner.
So over the years, we've kind of called on experts as well, haven't we, to kind of back up our claims of what our product can do. A few years back, we worked with Newcastle University where we proved that our solar screens can reduce the internal temperature by up to 10
Yeah, I mean, it was based on an adhesive film, but yeah, so that's what it was. No, it was based on a solar screen. Sorry, it was a solar screen. No, I'm wrong, yeah. So it was based on a solar screen, and it was, a 10% overlay based on it was effectively the journey of like a Mediterranean cruise.
And that was taken into so many variations as well. The heat we talked about coming off machines and stuff, all these variations were put into the model to kind of come up with that, and it was amazing that we could actually prove that. We've also spoke with a number of specialists in the northeast talking about eye damage. We spoke with a specialist optician who told us about the effects of long-term eye damage. So having our screens in place can really help mariners, especially those serving a long time at sea, where you're very prone to having eye damage or health issues related to the continuous sunshine coming through the windows. So we'll try and always speak to people external to back up our claims for our products, and we're pleased to see the results are significant, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of the legislation behind it. We do get questions sometimes about whether Marine Equipment Directive legislation or the UK version, marine equipment's a European thing. Since we left the EU, there's a UK only version called Marine Equipment Regulation. In effect, the actual regulation doesn't apply to solar screens because there's no testing standard for them. So the current product that we have has a Lloyd's type approval, and that is the highest standard of classification you will get for this product.
So we've been supplying our solar screens into the industry for well over 20 years now, and it's crazy how long these last for as well. So we give a good warranty of 7 years.
7 year
on
warranty
our
is standard, but if they're looked after properly, you'll be looking well into the decades for how long they can last.
Yeah, and we've got them on ships throughout the world, and it's not just cruise ships. It's not just ferries. It's
Fishing boats.
It's fishing boats.
Even,
you name it.
Even small yachts, like, because of the benefit it offers in terms of making the environment more comfortable, it offers a benefit for any sort of vessel, really.
Yeah. So the solar screens themselves are offered in 4 different colours. Is that right?
Yep. So this, when we say colours, we're talking about the actual solar film itself. You have silver, gold, grey, and bronze. In terms of, is there a right colour? Sometimes you get this question from people. It's personal preference, to be honest. It's what you want. In terms of the best UV performance, and as in by performance I mean reduction properties and glare reduction properties, the more reflective, as in the more shiny films, are the ones to look out for. So your silver and gold would be the ones to look out for there.
Because they reflect away more of the glare.
Exactly. Silver's the best performing in that term. Bronze and grey they have less reflective properties, but they still have a reflective property.
But
so
some
they still
people,
reduce it on
this
board.
is the thing, some people like that, don't they?
Well,
So
exactly. And also, because they're less reflective, for instance, defence vessels love the grey film because it doesn't sort of show, if you know what I mean. It's not reflecting.
They've got no choice in that matter, have they?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's that reason. The less reflective ones are your bronze and your grey. In terms of sort of a pricing structure, your silver and grey are I don't want to use the word cheaper, but for argument's sake, with gold and bronze being the more expensive films, and that's just because of the outlay cost of the actual film itself. In terms of, so they're the film colours, and then there's basically 2 types of how you would house it. There's the non-cassetted, where it's like a roller blind you would have in your house. It's an exposed roller of the film. And then there's the cassetted version, where it's housed in an aluminium casing to protect the film. Professionally speaking, we tend to, if possible, always recommend the aluminium casing cassette, because solar film's incredibly prone to scratches and fragile, delicate, so it needs to be looked after. But if not, non-cassetted is an absolutely perfectly viable option. In terms of cassette size, we offer 3 different types to fit all sorts of vessels. You have your 47mm, your 67mm, and your 90mm.
Some of these solar screens we're making are absolutely huge, aren't they?
Yeah, so in terms of your maximum size, there's a few sort of different pathways here. It depends on the size you want. So for your 47mm, you'd be looking at about 1.8 meters in terms of width, and drop is about 2.5 meters. 67 is about 2.6 with a drop of about 2.75, and then 90mm and non-cassetted are 3.6 width with a 2.75
well, I'm
drop.
impressed that you can remember all the statistics, to be fair.
I've been sat up all night revising these.
Yeah,
I'll be honest with you.
But the other thing is, we could probably make solar screens even bigger than what we
can,
do.
but
logistically,
there's that.
You've got like cut-off points about 3 meters with couriers.
Yeah, and also this is those sizes are in place because it's the max size we can guarantee. Effectively, the wider you go, the more stress on the roller. Now, solar film and thus the sagging on the roller would occur. Solar film shows sagging a lot more than like a roller blind blackout fabric would. So this is the sort of sizes we offer to kind of really minimize that sort of sagging. On top of that as well, the actual film is supplied on rolls of 1.8 meters. So anything over a 1.8 meter or width and a 1.8 meter drop will be seamed. So you'll have a join between the film there. So we do have it where we've gone up to like 4 meters before on solar screens, and it still worked technically perfectly. Professionally speaking, for the larger sort of widths, we tend to recommend maybe looking at or considering breaking up the windows, but some clients don't want that. They want a complete unit there. So it is possible. Those mentioned sort of parameters are guidelines, but professionally speaking, we try and hold to them. You do have limitations on what sort of mechanism can be done for wider systems as well.
Everything we do is marinized for the maritime industry. Yeah. We've got a lot of different mechanisms you can have. Just to give people a sort of idea of the blind, so if you were holding it up in front of you, you'd be able to see out of the blind perfectly. Mm-hmm. It would have a very slight tint of a very light grey, but you'll be able to see perfectly during daytime hours. And that's really essential because you've got to be able to see when navigating a ship. So that's why they're compliant with regulations. And then on an evening when it starts to get darker and the light starts to change, you can actually put that blind back into the cassette and it's out of the way, and then you focus through the normal windows of the ship. And that's kind of the principle behind it, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the regulation is it has to be retractable, and that's what it offers, so you can...
And what we kind of do as well is we'll marinize it, so it'll have very fine cable guides on it to keep it in line with the windows, because these windows can be very odd shapes. They can be very slanted at different angles, especially on a cruise ship. You may look at the windows and think they're all rectangle, but they're actually trapezoid, they're parallelograms. There's lots of different shapes that you have to contend with. And our guys are experts at kind of measuring that up and making sure that we get the blind that fits. So just to say on that as well, we chop all the blinds to different shapes and sizes. We don't just do square or rectangle blinds. We can cut them to what we call tapers, which is they can come in on the left, they can come in on the right, they can come equal sides, So that's really important as well. So
also they can be inverted, so they can run normally, like for most people, you kind of function off how a house blind would work, which runs top to bottom. Some ship windows aren't designed like that. You have a bottom which is effectively wider at the bottom than it is at the top. So what we can do is invert the screens to offer best coverage by
that's quite common,
the opposite way, bottom to top. Yeah, it's very common. I mean, ship windows are all shapes and sizes, as we all know. So there's plenty of options there. We basically will find a way of making it fit.
We're going to do a future podcast about motorization, because that's becoming key in our business. But I just want to touch upon it very slightly here. Manual operated solar screens has always been the sort of go-to in the past.
The go-to,
but now the revolution's happening, isn't it? It's starting to change.
Well, I mean, for instance, particularly on like a cruise ship, you've just been on one, right? How many windows?
So the one I did recently was 35.
Exactly. So imagine having to manually operate all and every single one of
so
them.
this was the problem that was faced by this particular ship management company, and I won't go into the name, but they really, all the crew wanted motorized blinds, but the budget that was available didn't allow for it. Motors are much more expensive, but the price is actually coming down now that the technology is becoming more available. A bit like a flat screen TV that you would buy for your home. In the past, it used to cost thousands of pounds, but because they're mass producing them now, the price is becoming much more affordable for people. And that's kind of happening the same in the motorization within the industry. And that's good, because more people can then have motorized blinds, which makes it more efficient. You've obviously then got the different elements that come with that can go wrong, in terms of if a blind doesn't work, how do you fix it, etc. But that's it's less common, isn't it?
Exactly. And I mean, going back a step, what Motorized offers you is the ability to be able to control multiple screens at once. You don't have this where you're having to manually do 35, 40 sets of screens one by one, where you can just have, because of the arrangement of the sequencing of motors, you can either have all them up or, aft down.
Think of it like a synchronized,
you can have them all
synchronized swimming team, isn't it?
Yeah.
And what they do, particularly on bigger cruise ships, for instance, they'll have the port side wing or the starboard wing that comes down together, and then the central blinds come down together, and it works really well. We did an install in Miami 2 or 3 months back, which was replacing all of their current motorized blinds with brand new motorized blinds. They'd had them in for about 12 years. They weren't our brand that we took out, but our brand that we put in. The reason that we were selected is because our motors are very, very quiet, and I think that's a key element. Even though they only come up and down for a small period of time, the crew like peace on board, and I think that's something that we push with our motorized blinds, isn't it?
Well, exactly. Well, ultimately for motorized, there's two options. You can the hardwired, where the blind is physically wired into the ship's mains. That has a range of sub options, but depending on the voltage of the ship, basically. So you have 12 volt, 24 volt, 110 volt, and 240 volt.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, if you don't have the option to motorize through a hardwired connection, you can look at an embedded battery system, which effectively...
So when you're saying hardwired, what you mean there is that the crew can operate the blinds from the main dashboard on the bridge area.
Or they can be controlled by remote control as well. Hardwired just simply means it's physically wired into the bridge mains. Control operations can be done through a hardwired switch or through...
The hardwired switch is always a better one, in my opinion, because you can't lose the remote control. It's like the remote control of a TV. Again, I'm bringing the TV scenario up again. But you can, if that gets misplaced and you haven't got a replacement, then you can't operate the blinds. Yeah. Whereas if you've got a big industrial button on the dashboard of the control system, you can actually...
I mean, there's more wiring arrangements that we need to know about to with a hardwired switch, but in theory, it's physically in place and it can be done. That's absolutely great. With the actual motor, with a remote control, it comes with a wall mount anyway, and we offer spares and things like that. So there's no issue with that. Complete setting instructions are provided too, so you can adjust the limits yourself on site, or we can show you how to do it. So it's absolutely fine. Battery operated systems, it's operated via battery. It's fairly simple. But on top of that, we also offer basically the battery operated system, depending on use, is about sort of a 2-year battery lifespan before you need to look at recharging or topping that battery up. But on top of that, we also offer a solar panel, which is effectively about the size of a Mars bar. I'm allowed to do product placement, which goes onto the window and tops up the battery charge via a trickle charge.
Yeah.
Now, if you're on a cruise ship somewhere like the Caribbean, that's going to have a massive impact on that lifespan of that battery because it's going to be in direct sunlight all the time.
Yeah.
So there's a range of options. In terms of motorized, tends to be 90mm cassette only due to the size of the actual motors that the rollers come on. But that said, for things like battery operated systems, you can look at the smaller cassettes, and non-cassetted is always an option too.
So for anyone interested in the product itself, you can check it out on our website at www.solarglide.com. The product itself has got lots of benefits which anybody working in the maritime industry on the bridge of a ship will understand. I think it's an essential product, and it's a product that we've been working with for over 20 years. So we've basically come up with every possible scenario that you can be faced with.
Well, we drove
and we've got solutions for it as well, haven't we?
We were sort of the innovation in it as a company. We drove the actual type approval process ourselves.
Yeah, we were the first
sort of first ones to market with it. So
yeah, we were the first company in the world to get type approval for this product.
Exactly.
And then others followed, didn't they? So it's a product that we're very proud of. It still remains our flagship product today, and we're supplying them all over the world. Just to give you an example of some of the ships that have got them on board, Disney Fantasy, Allure of the Seas, which is a Royal Caribbean vessel, lots of the big cruisers, there's a lot of the DFDS ferries have our products on. We're working with a lot of the well-known brands within the industry, and that's really key for what we do. And it's not just a one-off, it's continuous relationship building that we do. So that's really exciting. The product, you can see it clearly on our website, and it gives you a better understanding of what we're saying by transparency. But the key thing is it's protecting crew and sometimes passengers, depending on where they're fitted.
Yeah, I mean, that's what
point, we're all about.
Fair, they used to not always on the bridge. I've seen installs where they've gone into office areas. I've seen installs where they've gone into public air. For instance, DFDS, like you've just mentioned, they're in passenger corridors to keep the temperature down.
Yeah, well, we do cranes as well. We do offshore modules. We do oil rigs. You name it. Anywhere where they want to still be able to see out, but to block out a lot of the light.
Yeah, and heat's the issue. Exactly. It's what it's designed to do. So
exactly,
it's a multi-use product. I mean, we kind of focus on it being the wheelhouse because that's what it was originally designed for. And that's where the legislation is. But there's no reason to say you can't have it in a passenger cabin if you wanted to, right?
Yeah.
So there's multi-use for it.
Yeah, there's uses outside of the maritime industry as well, but we focus purely on the maritime sector. That's all we do.
Yeah.
That's something that we're never going to stay away from. So always 100% maritime. Okay, so thank you for tuning into this podcast. We just wanted to give you an overview of our flagship product. It's something that we're very proud of. We're supplying them into the international industry every single day. The production for our products is going extremely well, and we're very proud of this product, like I just said. So thanks for tuning in. Next time, we're gonna
like and subscribe.
Yeah, like and subscribe if you can. Next time, we're going to talk a little bit about the branding of the business. It's something I'm very passionate about. I come from a very creative background. Design is such a key element in our business, and I want to talk about that if we can. And we're doing a brand new rebranding exercise for the business, which I'm very excited about as well, because I like to embrace change, and I feel like it's time for us to change the way that we project ourselves to the industry. Not that it was bad before, but it's always nice to have a refresh.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Graphic design is something I have running through my veins, so it's something that I'm going to be very excited to talk about. So thank you for tuning in, and you can check out this podcast via our website or on YouTube. And we look forward to seeing you next month to talk about the new branding coming from Solarglide. Thank you very much.